In 1227, the Mongol Empire stretched like a colossal shadow across the known world. No force on earth seemed capable of stopping its relentless expansion. Yet, within 60 years, this invincible empire would meet its match not in warriors or fortifications, but in the fury of nature itself. By 1264, Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis, had consolidated power and set his sights on the islands of Japan, a land that had never known foreign conquest. This would become one of history's most dramatic confrontations between human ambition and the raw power of the weather. Kublai's diplomatic missions began in 1267, demanding Japan's submission. But the young regent, H.J. Tokimune, repeatedly defied him, sending his envoys away. For Kublai, who had conquered the mighty Song dynasty of China, this defiance from a small island nation was intolerable. In 1274, he ordered an invasion. A massive fleet was built, but the construction took longer than expected. The invasion, originally planned for summer, was delayed autumn. Mongol strategists believed they had perfectly timed it, avoiding the violent summer typhoons. It was a calculation that seemed sound based on their continental experience. But it was a miscalculation that would cost them dearly. The fleet of up to 900 ships carried around 40,000 warriors armed with advanced technology like explosive bombs. They swept over Tsushima and Iki Islands with brutal efficiency. When they landed at Hakata Bay, they met fierce resistance from the Japanese samurai. The samurai, masters of individual combat, were unprepared for the Mongols' coordinated group assaults and explosive weapons. The Mongols pushed inland, but as darkness fell, their commanders made a fateful decision. They would withdraw to their ships and resume the attack in the morning. They anchored in Hakata Bay, confident of victory. The weather seemed calm. The season for great storms had passed, but the Mongol strategists had failed to account for a crucial reality of the Pacific climate. Typhoons, while less common in late autumn, can still form when conditions align. And that night, as the fleet lay at anchor, those conditions aligned with devastating perfection. Around midnight, the wind began to howl. A full typhoon, a meteorological anomaly for that time of year, bore down on Hakata Bay. The Mongol ships, designed for calmer rivers and coastal waters, were catastrophically vulnerable. Massive waves crashed over their decks, snapping masts and tearing sails. Ships dragged their anchors and smashed against each other, splintering their wooden hulls. The bay became a churning maelstrom of destruction. When dawn broke, the scene was one of utter devastation. Roughly 1/3 of the Mongol fleet lay wrecked or at the bottom of the sea. Some 13,000 men, nearly half the invasion force, had drowned. The battered survivors limped back to Korea. The invasion was over. Defeated, not by Japanese steel, but by a weather pattern the Mongol commanders had fundamentally misunderstood. The Japanese, witnessing this sudden deliverance, saw divine intervention. They called the storm kamikaze, the divine wind, believing the gods themselves had risen to defend their sacred islands. But Kublai Khan was not a man to be deterred. He spent the next 7 years rebuilding his forces for an even larger invasion. Meanwhile, the Japanese, under Regent Tokimune, constructed massive stone walls along the beaches of Hakata Bay and prepared their forces with grim determination. In 1281, Kublai launched his second invasion. 2 massive fleets, a combined armada of 4,400 ships carrying up to 140,000 warriors, set sail. It was one of the largest naval invasions in history. Kublai thought he had learned from his mistake, timing this invasion for early summer. But the Mongol planners had learned the wrong lesson. They failed to grasp that Japan sits in one of the most typhoon-prone regions on Earth, and summer is peak typhoon season. The invasion plan fell apart immediately. The massive stone walls prevented the Mongol forces from finding any suitable landing beaches. For weeks, the enormous fleet remained offshore, trapped in a waiting game it could not win. Supplies ran low, and disease spread through the cramped ships. To protect their fleet from constant harassment by small Japanese boats, the Mongol commanders made another fateful decision. They ordered their large ships to be lashed together with chains, creating floating fortresses. It seemed like a sound defensive idea, but it would prove to be a catastrophic error. By Midogast, the situation was desperate. On August 14th, a gale began to blow from the north. The commanders, not realizing this was the leading edge of a massive typhoon, put out to sea to ride out what they thought was a summer storm. By August 15th, the full fury of the storm descended. The scene was even more horrific than the disaster of 1274. The thousands of ships, many chained together, became death traps. Unable to maneuver, they were battered by mountainous waves. The chains that were meant to protect them became instruments of doom, dragging clusters of ships down together. The storm raged for 2 full days. When it finally passed, the devastation was total. Between 50,000 and 100,000 warriors were dead, drowned in the storm. Thousands more survivors washed ashore, only to be hunted down and executed by samurai. Only a tiny fraction of the Great Armada managed to struggle back home. The largest naval invasion force in the world up to that point had been annihilated by weather. The impact was immense. The failed invasions marked a crucial turning point, destroying the myth of Mongol invincibility. Kublai Khan never attempted another invasion. From a modern perspective, the story is one of catastrophic meteorological miscalculation. The Mongols, brilliant masters of land warfare, simply did not understand the Pacific maritime environment. Their strategists failed to grasp the patterns, frequency, and sheer power of typhoons. In 1274, they invaded too late in the season and were hit by an anomaly. In 1281, they corrected their timing by invading during peak typhoon season, sealing their own fate. The story of the kamikaze is a powerful reminder that even the mightiest empires can be brought low by a failure to understand and respect the natural world. Kublai Khan's dream of conquering Japan fell not to Japanese swords, but to his strategists' catastrophic misreading of the weather. The divine wind was real, but its power came from nature itself, force that cares nothing for human ambition and will always punish those who fail to show it proper respect.